Okay, so at this point, guys, what we did was, we created a whole bunch of, I don't have them here, but you created a whole bunch of, surfaces that you extruded into volumes or profiles even that you extruded into volumes, and they came out as poly surfaces, right? And so that was giving me problems here. Oh, I think I hid the surface. I'm going to move this off for a second. So I'm going to say set one surface, put it over here. So what the problem we were having is that you can't map it all onto one surface. It has to be a poly surface. And so let me just bring this back to a poly surface before. Oh, just join. So I exploded it. If you want to rejoin them into a poly surface, just select all the 6 surfaces or 6 sides and type in join. So I'll show you that again. Right, they're all separate. If I go to the side, I can select the top 5, but I still need to make sure I go to the bottom and select that one and join. Make sure that when you close it, it says that it's a closed poly surface. So the trouble we're having is we cannot map this to every single surface of a poly surface. Well, the good thing is we have all the tools that we need to isolate particular sides. So with a simple extrusion that has 6 sides, it becomes really easy. It looks kind of like this. If I go to params and I drop in, do I want geometry? Yeah. So I'm going to use generic geometry because I don't necessarily want a B-rep. Though well, actually, B-rep should be fine. Let me try that one out. B-rep, set one B-rep, that. Yeah, that'll work too. B-rep is fine. You could just do regular geometry as well and say set one geometry and put it in there. Both of them are going to work fine for this. So anyway, what I'm going to do is, if you recall, if I want to isolate faces of a group of faces, what's the node I want to use? Right, but now we're not doing a flat subdivision of panels. We're doing a 3-dimensional one. It's the same thing though. Anyone? Think back to lesson 1, grid. All right, so I've constructed a geometry, and now I'm going to do what to isolate particular parts of it? Deconstruct. Yes, thank you. So deconstruct is under surface analysis, deconstruct B-rep. I'll just use the B-rep version. Yeah, this is off to the side. We're going to use it in a bit. You'll see. Trust me, Matthew, trust me. All right, thanks. So deconstruct B-rep then gives us faces, edges, and vertices. We are not concerned with the edges and vertices, but what we want are the faces, right? So we have trimmed surfaces and untrimmed surfaces. That doesn't really matter, but we have 6 surfaces. So we could technically try and just feed them all in. In fact, I wonder what it's going to do if I just fed them all into that. Let me save. I've been really bad tonight, and I have not saved this file at all, and I'm appalled that I haven't, so I'm going to save it right now, because I will say this, Grasshopper likes to crash. So save your files, save them often, way more often than I have. Not summer. I'm going to save this one for you on the drive. All right. So I'm going to work with faces. I'm just going to try this out and see if this format of faces is actually going to be any better than this collection of faces. So if I just plug it in, let's see if it allows me to run that. No, it still gave me the same error I had before. That's flattened. Oh, I see. I see the problem with that. That one's going to have to be different for each one. How do I want to do that? Do not flatten. All right, I'll play around with that part later. But anyway, let's go. Oh, I froze. All right. So what we're going to do here is basically begin by mapping individual surfaces for this to actually identify. And this part is actually, I think, pretty versatile. So this is going to be a little package unit, and what I'm going to do is group them up into list items. So if you recall, the way to isolate particular parts of a set or a list is to use list item. So if you go under set and list, you can find this one right here. It's called list item. Or I wonder if we want to do sublist. Let's try that. Yeah. Never mind. No, we're going to do it manually first. I'll show you more complex stuff later. So list item. Yes.
So we have the one boxes and breadbed and then boxes?
Yeah, you'll have two there.
I didn't have.
You could turn your layer off if you want.
No, I don't have. I have to make one boxes and do it all over again.
You could just take those surfaces that I made you explode and join them together. That's what. Yeah, select all the surfaces and type in join. That'll make them a poly surface again. All right, so I'll come help you out with that in a sec. But anyway, what we can do here is under list item, we can actually feed in all the faces, which we can then actually set a number of faces that we want to apply this to. So basically, we could just say, well, let's pick 1. So we're going to say 0 is less than 5. And I say 0 is less than 5 because if you recall, the indices of that list go by 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to give us 6. It looks like this. See? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to plug that into I. And then I'm going to plug that into the surface reference, which is going to override that original surface I made, and there it is. So I'll hide this. I'm going to hide that. So the coolest thing about this is that now we have a slider that we can use to pick which surface this is going to map onto. So I've got surface 0, surface 1, which is the roof, 2, which is the floor, 3, which is the other wall, and then 4, other wall, and 5, the other wall. So here's where you kind of have to think about what you're creating and how you want to break it down. So you've got either simple boxes that you're going to break down and create this surface for, or you can pick individual surfaces, which is fine. The scope is not that large that would become impractical. Or you can recreate these poly surfaces to only be walls. But really, the problem you're going to run into is this. All of this is feeding one wall. The problem we have is that this divide domain is only going to allow us to subdivide one domain at a time, which is the difficult part. So when we fed in 6 domains, I think we were getting trouble. There might be a way to force it through. I'm just trying to figure out how. So we've got 0. Let's try it with 0 and 3.
Limited to providing information about one surface at a time.
That's what it seems to be. 2 untrimmed surfaces, 40 values. Subdivisions in a package. 2 untrimmed surfaces. I'll have to think about that one to see if we can automate it that way. Give me a little bit to play around with this one. I think there's got to be a way to process that through, and I'm just getting stuck on something. Yeah, I can. Hold on. All right, so here's the kicker. So what I had to do was, if you look at the information that's coming out, I have, I'll do it this way, the surface link. And right now I'm just showing you on the side. So the surfaces that I'm feeding it, right, it comes through as a list of 2 surfaces. They look like this when it's being read, 0 and 1. The modifications that I was doing requires them to be packaged in sets. So remember when I talked about lists and sets? This is a list that only has one set, essentially. But when I do a graph, it takes all that information in packages and then creates separate sets with them. So I've got set 1 with an index of 0 and a set 2 with an index of 0. So the problem I was having is that when I pass something through a divide domain, it will always give me one value. It's gonna give me one source from 2 values, and it'll apply it to, I don't know why it's giving me that now. It's still flattened. This one is only gonna give me 1? Yeah, so this is only gonna give me 1 value. This one wants whatever the surfaces are. But what it's given me is a problem with the V domain. So if you trace it back, right, it's gonna give you a problem. Let me flatten that so you can see. There's supposed to be a negative in here somewhere. Anyway, it's given me a problem with my U and V domain because they're all in different places, different orientations and stuff. So rather than flattening that, what I do is I graphed it. So that way everything is coming out in little packages, right? So I've got one surface in a package, a second surface in a package. The information that comes through here is giving me 2 packages. The information that gets fed in, I have 2 surfaces that are being applied to buy 2 packages, right? So 2 packages with 20 subsets, index of 20 modifications. And then up here, that same set of packages flows through because it's relating to sort of an index value of 0, 1 item. That's why it had to be grafted into separate units. Does that make sense? It might not. It barely makes sense to me. But what you need to know, and this is kind of the pursuit that we're always going to be in, is what type of information am I passing through? So notice how I made such a big deal out of understanding lists and sets, grafting and flattening. That is what I'm talking about. It takes time. It takes a lot of experience. You will get frustrated like I just did. But once you overcome it and you begin to understand it like that, it's really rewarding. So anyway, at this point, I believe I can actually just input all the sides that I want. So I'll do this I'll just start off as like a little package of information. I know I want 4 of my sides, and I know 5 and I believe 3 were other indexes that I wanted. There you go. Okay, so I know you're a little confused right now what you have to change, but you don't have to change much. In fact, all you have to do is add this and plug it into the surface reference. That's going to be it. You guys follow? And make sure your surface reference is grafted. Do you need to see how to graft it again? Okay. All you do is right click, and just like flattening, it's the reverse of flattening. So grafting will take separate sets of data and make it one single list. Sorry, did I say flattening? Flattening will make it one single list. Grafting will take one single list and break them apart into sets of data.
So making it like lighter, smaller.
Making it what?
Lighter.
Not lighter. It's the same amount of information. It's just reading it differently. So it's basically saying, if I have a modification, right? I'll call it modification A. Right? That modification comes in a group of 3 sets. So kind of 3 separate instructions or identities. If I have a list of geometry, and that geometry comes through in a list, so I'm just going to do it like this, and that's all one element. When you tie the 2 together, all you're going to get is one modification. Whereas if I take this and I graft it, then it becomes 3 separate geometries. And if I take this and I flatten it, then I have a list of instructions to feed it. Then what it's going to do is it's going to feed into that, feed all of them into that, and feed all of them into that, which is what you want. Is that clear?
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be like picture perfect, but just know that they're opposites in terms of how they assign data. Okay, so this video is running long. I'm going to walk around and help you guys out, but I don't even really need to show you anything more except for this and that, and you should be able to get it done. But I will show you the rest.